The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome to today's webinar entitled How to Develop an All-Star Custodial Management Team. My name is Phyllis Zadek, Manager Special Programs for APA. Just a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. The webinar recording will be posted to the APA webpage under the Continuous Learning tab later today. Professional continuing education certificates are being offered for today's program. Those who indicated they wanted a certificate at registration and meet the requirements will receive certificates later this afternoon. All attendees are in listen-only mode. Please type your questions in the chat box and they will be answered in the order they are received. If we run out of time and we still have questions, responses will be sent directly to the person asking the question by one of our presenters. At this time, it's my pleasure to turn this over to Tony Maoni, who will introduce our speakers. Tony, take it away.
Thanks, Billy, and thank you, APA, for hosting today's event. I'm Tony Maoni, President with Core America, custodial consulting and software company. We've been proud members of APA for over 20 years as an organization, and really delighted to be here today with so many attendees talking about a very important topic, developing your custodial leadership team. I'm going to share my screen and we'll move into the agenda, and then I'll follow up with a speaker introduction. So hopefully everybody can see the backdrop here. And I'm just going to take a quick moment to explain why we came up with this topic. As custodial consultants, we get to work with universities, colleges, and K-12 districts all over the United States on what matters most to them on a daily basis. Through COVID, it was all about enhanced and pandemic-related cleaning. After that, the topics seemed to move more toward staffing solutions and finding enough frontline team members to fulfill the scope of work. And what we've noticed in these last 6 months or so is the conversation seems to be shifting squarely toward management and supervision. Between a current talent gap or just the need to develop and create an all-star management team to hold a program together during these critical times for facility management. That's sort of the buzz that we keep hearing and keep getting asked about. And so we thought, what better than to join with APA and do a webinar that addresses this topic head on and invite some industry experts that can share some of their secrets, challenges, and probably some failures in terms of how they build an all-star custodial management team. So with that, let me just briefly cover the agenda today. So in a moment, I'm going to do speaker introductions, like I mentioned. Then we'll get right into the feature presentation. We'll hear from the 3 experts that you see here today, and they'll talk about, how do you assess your current leadership team? What are some critical skills for a custodial leader in today's environment? How do you improve the skills gap, if there is one, and create an even better team? And then what are some tips for long-term success? We'll still have at least 15 minutes for Q&A at the end or more. So feel free to send in those questions and we'll address them as they come. Okay, some quick speaker introductions, then we'll pass it off to Donna to get us started. So again, I'm Tony Maoni. My company, Core America, we work with over 350 colleges and universities and hundreds of K-12 districts to help them enhance their custodial program. We don't perform the custodial duties ourselves. We're consultants and software providers, so we get to work with organizations like yours every day to help you enhance your programs. I'm glad to be here today. I've been in the industry for about 20 years, and I live in upstate New York. Also with us is Donna Butler. She's Senior Director of Custodial Services at Brown University. Donna has been in the custodial industry for over 45 years, starting as a frontline worker for a hospital in Rhode Island, and working her way first on the environmental services healthcare side, and eventually joining Brown in 2000 as the Associate Director, and after several promotions is now the Senior Director of Custodial. My teammate, Carl Kyle. Carl is our Vice President here at Core. He travels the country pretty much on a daily basis, visiting campuses and helping others assess their programs and build out routes and master plans, and he helps implement our Smart Inspect quality assurance app. So Carl's with us today. You'll get to hear from him. And then finally, Musa Pam. Musa has been in the facilities and custodial industry for a little over 30 years. He's been on the contractor side, third-party management. He's been the president and founder and CEO of several facility companies. Then he was actually with Donna at Brown University before now. He's the associate vice president at UNLV in facilities management. Between the three panelists, they have a lot of experience to share. Like I said, a lot of successes and failures with this topic, and I think they'll be excited for what they have to share today. So with that being said, I will pass it off to Donna, our first presenter, and she'll tell you a little bit about Brown. Go ahead, Donna.
Thank you, Anthony. Thank you, Billy. And thank you for the invitation to participate today. So as Tony mentioned, I began my transition to higher ed custodial cleaning from the environmental services healthcare cleaning world in May of 2000, 2 weeks before commencement. And I didn't know what that was, but it was a quick study to quickly learn not only cleaning, but quickly to learn the processes of higher ed and staffing and budget and key points of the year that we all faced during the learning portion of 6 months of learning a job. So quickly we came to realize that the program, although long-term and successful, had some serious gaps with regards to consistency, training, staff development, and so forth. So we engaged with CORE to create a program that recognizes the importance and the justification to split up the traditional 3 shifts of work and creating an overnight shift, and then developing those folks to, which has resulted actually in probably the largest and most important shift we have here at Brown. And the success of that is because our campus is so active. We are growing, as my bio indicates, with over 6 million, 0.3 million rather, cleanable square footage. And knowing that number and being successful and being trusted to carry out the program in many, many new spaces, including a performing arts center, a $400 million research center in development, and so forth. So it's great that Brown has the confidence in us to keep it as an in-house bargaining unit, frontline staff, and also that we've developed the supervisors and managers and directors along with myself in learning the campus initially and moving into creating that overnight shift and developing it to, again, be our most important shift on campus. The less visible. And so its justification is that what we decided to do is, in order to recruit people and train them in guiding that larger shift, was offering a stipend. Perhaps that would be more attractive to people looking for a new opportunity in custodial services in the management field. And the importance of that to continue what I feel to be is a very successful program. The other piece that came with that is removing the office doors and saying that you have an open door policy, but truly having one, and listening to the staff, both frontline and the management team, for developing them to be able to feel confident and comfortable in conversations, both pleasurable and difficult, so that you can hear true feelings about a program that was developed and is working, but maybe not on their particular side or viewing point, challenges that they face, and then perhaps working together and resolving some low-hanging fruit, as I call it, based on complaints that we've received, customer feedback we received, and engaging them to be able to actively play a role in solving those problems. And so that the frontline staff sees that their conversations are more in depth, and then the supervisors being able to resolve those issues. The issue resolution and the historical knowledge, I know many of you have, including yourselves, obviously, a historical knowledge of all your facilities. But it's truly important that photos do share a lot of information, and it's timely, it's time sensitive. So using the tools like Smart Inspect that we partner with CORE on to address those issues, and not as a disciplinary tool, but as a knowledge tool to show people what perhaps is missed, and then engaging training to correct those issues so that they don't become repetitive, and take those photos to demonstrate success stories as well. On our homepage, we have a photo of an area that was recently refinished and so forth. We're very proud of that, and working with project management to have a seat at the table to recognize, again, what issues we've had in particular buildings when we're challenged with perhaps a renovation or a new structure building, so that those people can hear the other side. So again, both from staff and the management team, being able to articulate individual buildings and problem solving before perhaps a much needed renovation or a new building has really helped us open up the doors to those conversations, and staff feel comfortable having them. The inspection follow-up, as I said, a picture speaks 1,000 words. We ask that we have independent audits with CORE, so that we have our supervisors, managers, even my opinion of space, but bringing in a independent audit helps immensely in getting a deeper view of the space. And it's done basically right after the individual shifts end, so that it's, again, time sensitive and accurate, and so that people then can carry that based on feedback. Senior administration looks for data such as this to be able to submit budget requests, additional staffing requests, and so forth, so that we can really improve the program, having the basics outlined, but then being able to enhance the program by speaking to problematic areas, so that senior administration doesn't just hear the complaints, but they begin to hear the compliments as well. And then the openness to change. When I first arrived here, the program was fragmented, many gaps in knowledge, but what we soon realized is that we needed better inspection program. We funded and were able to receive a training supervisor QA/QC position, which is, again, open-minded approach to change, so that the supervisors weren't impacted adversely to negative comments and so forth, where we had an objective review of an area and problem solve. So it's not a culture of discipline, or I'm in trouble, or I'm not doing my job, and then having that relatively successful supervisor or manager leave because they feel that their input and or processes are not, being respected. So it's building that basis of openness, delicate and important conversations to have, so that they don't feel they're isolated out in the field, that they are listened to, and that doing that also transitions to the frontline staff. We have, next slide, please, very successful regular staff meetings. And people say, well, why do you have those every month? Isn't the same thing that you talk about? In higher ed, as you all know, there's many things, seasonal or whatever, that come up. It's not the same topics. Yes, safety is addressed, but we also have a large section of the meeting time dedicated to questions and answers. So we can listen to the staff, see what we're faced with, or what they're faced with actually, and then be able to resolve those. I was just approached the other day by someone missing something in their particular building. We were able to correct that and replace it, so that, again, it's not about replacing the tools that went missing. It's about, they now know and do know that we listen and correct whenever possible. So the succession planning leads into that as well. We all have an aging workforce on many, many levels. And so what we try to do with the people here is develop a stewardship and a succession plan so that we can identify the future leaders after retirement does take place, or advancement in another higher ed university, or personal reasons when people leave or whatever. But we want to recognize their value. The university established a appreciation day for all staff to have off so that we can seek respite and continue the motivation to want to be successful in what we do every day. So we prepare them to take on leadership roles in advance of future promotional opportunities, so that they know, as well as understand, that growth is good, change is good, and that they feel comfortable in that area and knowing that there is a future. A lot of people in the past I've worked with over the years feel that they just want to be a supervisor. They don't want to go anywhere else. They don't want to develop. And you have that too. But it's a challenge to also let them know that they are valued. Their word of advice is taken seriously, and that in a lot of cases, their suggestions are also put into place. So I feel that that's an important piece in the succession planning, as well as legacy and future planning. We have people who have announced different times. We recently had an employee picnic to thank everyone in facilities management for what they do every day. And several people approached me that they will be, venturing into the world of retirement next year, but they felt comfortable in approaching me to share their excitement in their joy in being able to retire and enjoy that next phase of their life, but also that they really enjoyed working here and continue to work here another year so that they can, finish what they've started, so to speak. So in emphasizing the importance of not only the program and the knowledge that we have here built over the years, that we are passing on to the next generation of people and showing that they definitely make a difference. They are part of the organization, and just listening to people, I think it goes a long way in hearing people out, and also offering that historical knowledge of why things may not work or things may not be able to change, but that at least an explanation of how we got to where we are today in what I feel is a very successful program, faced with all the adversity of budget cuts, inability to recruit, lack of knowledge in facilities, in custodial services to even want to work at Brown. Is all those different touch points that all of us face, and being able to at least promote what we have here as a success, and hopefully capture some folks that do want to work here at Brown and benefit from knowing that they're in a higher educational university in the Ivy Leagues, and all that long-standing Ivy League institution, and all that brings, and really boost their confidence and ability to want to participate, is what we've found here over my past 24, going on 25 years. It's been an evolution. There are people who have stayed and then decided to leave for better opportunities, and don't feel bad about that. Just know that when people do talk to me and they are leaving, I know we've offered them the best opportunity that we've had and developed and shared with them so that they can participate. And I'm really happy for their advancement into another organization. I know they're getting a quality employee, and I'm very happy to participate in any type of reference check that the other organization may have and share that with them, as really they're getting a very good person because of the retention and the engagement that we've offered them here at Brown, and they can speak to it.
Yeah. Well, Donna, thanks for sharing all that. And I know the audience probably has many questions to hear more about how you've set up this successful management team at Brown. So we'll hear from you again in a little bit. But just to recap, Donna shared through technology, communication, succession planning, future-proofing the program, and kind of a proactive training inspection process. Those are some ways that they've really overhauled their management team and really developed them over these last 7 or 8 years that they've been working on this transformation. So we're going to transition to Carl after one quick audience poll slide here. So the question is, what is your anticipated turnover in custodial leadership? So not frontline staff, but leadership in the next 3 to 5 years. So as you think ahead, next 3 to 5 years, are you thinking you'll lose 50% in terms of turnover through retirement or what have you? More than that, less than that? You'll see some options come up on your screen. And we'll see the results of this question in a moment. It's no secret that the baby boomer generation as a whole is getting deeper and deeper into retirement, and a lot of those folks hold supervisory or management positions in facilities management. So it's something we need to plan for. Okay. Let's see. Billy, are we able to see the poll results here? Billy, can you hear me okay? I'm just wondering how to show the poll. Okay.
The results are showing because they're showing on my screen.
Okay. I think just as a presenter, I can't see them. I guess I'll get them after the fact. That's okay.
Yeah, Tony, I would say the results were 0 to 20 around almost 40%, and then the next tier up was also close to 40%. It was 30 some odd percent each one. So
okay, great. All right. Well, without further ado, I will pass it off to Carl Kyle, who will talk us through today's challenge in custodial leadership and some ideas on how his clients have been addressing that. Go ahead, Carl.
Thanks, Tony. And thank you, everyone, for attending. I love what we do as a group. I've worked on the front line, and I've worked my way up into various supervisory and management positions in the industry. I've always said to folks that I've had the pleasure of supervising or managing that facilities don't run without the services we provide. And again, I strongly believe that in what we do every day. We are doing everything from getting folks to work to participating in a clean and healthy environment for their education, and it's great. And it's a very exciting time with all the new technology and all the things that are going on with facilities to be a part of facilities. So again, a couple things and specialties we do and all types of program design and things like that. So very good. I want to go into, again, talent and experience training. But we sort of, our poll question sort of transitions us into the pandemic accelerated retirement. We had in an aging workforce of supervisors and managers and directors in custodial and more broadly in FM as a whole. Fewer folks are entering the industry, and it's leading towards a talent gap. You know, I've walked into most rooms I walk into now. I'm, you know, 20 years ago I was the youngest person in those rooms, and 20 years later now I sort of am too. So it just really illustrates that. You know, and then we also have things like our customers, right? Customers want more technology, more transparency. That's the very exciting part, right? We have all this new technology that's being rolled out, sensors, robotics, all these great things. But to make them work, we need to have supervisory management resources that really get frontline staff to buy into these technologies, to adopt them properly, to use them properly. And then in terms of transparency, occupants want to know what we're doing more so than ever before. What are you using to clean? How often you're cleaning? When are you cleaning? Those are questions that we're getting more and more than we ever had before, right? People want to have that level of transparency into what our programs are doing. You know, with that in mind, you know, talking about a knowledge transfer, right? We have to transfer this great knowledge that each one of us has in the places we've worked, understanding the buildings, the facilities, but more so than that, the culture, right? Really translating that culture to our staff. And so frontline staff can really understand, again, to sort of highlight some of the things Donna brought up, right? The why. Why do we do what we do? Why the program is the way it is? And that's very important, right? And so without that influx of new talent, there's a risk that we could lose some of that knowledge. Again, this makes training very, very important for us to continue as a critical component of management, of all of our management teams. Next slide, Tony. Yeah, we want to be, and we want this because we want to be more versatile. Like I said before, things are different, not only in with technology, but what we do and how long we have to do it has also changed. Dormitory room cleaning, which we used to have 2 months to do, is now 2 weeks in some places. So we have to be more versatile. We have to be faster at what we do and efficient at what we do in some sense. You have new facilities with diverse spaces. I've seen the most beautiful new buildings in here with all types of amenities, but we have to clean them. So we have to be very, very well versed into what goes into cleaning those facilities, whether it's the surfaces or the activities that go on in those facilities. More and more often, we need to make sure we have folks managed and supervised to properly make sure we meet our objectives in getting those facilities, again, clean and healthy. And then we need to, again, continuous learning, continuous training, right? Strong management teams, you know, are those that kind of prioritize that continuous education. For the most part, you know, I've seen we have teams that build up very good frontline staff and they put them into that supervisor position. Or we have good folks who are managers who don't understand custodial or the service, and they're brought in as well. So training is very important for both those folks. It's critically important that we emphasize training on them and make sure they have a good understanding of what it is, again, for not only the facilities and for actually understanding custodial, but the culture of our organizations as well. Next slide, Tony. Again, so you know, building a all-star team, and continuous cross-training, having groups, whether it's in different shifts or different building portfolios, learn from each other, right? You want to have this more versatile group. Again, due to turnover, but also you want to have this most versatile type of group so they understand the overall facility and how it runs. And a greater understanding of FM, right? What are we doing on the MEP side? Why are certain things done that way? And understanding why those services take place and what effect you have on those services, so you can be more versatile and also be able to collaborate with other departments, especially with custodial. You know, we touch the spaces more so than, again, on a daily basis, more so than the MEP folks get to do their inspections and sometimes grounds. So being able to have folks who understand that and able to report back can be very important to FM as a whole. And the other thing is also learning from peers. Organizations going to visit other universities, other school districts, sharing best practices. That is a great resource we have, and using organizations like APA that provide that community is very important. That's how we get to grow and understand things that we haven't even thought about, this out of the box thinking, especially as, again, new buildings are coming online with new amenities. Other folks might have a different way of doing things that may be something we want to do together as a team. Tony, next slide. And again, one of the things is sort of learning from failure, what doesn't work. And I've been a part of this, by the way. Airdropping supervisors, like I like to refer to it, and I've been airdropped. Someone comes in, they have a good resume, well, they know what to do. We'll just drop them right in there, leave them on a site, they'll manage a site, they'll manage a shift, whatever it is, and they'll figure it out because they've done it somewhere else. That's not a very good practice in the sense of our buildings are more complex. There's a need, again, to understand culture. There's a need to understand why we do what we do in the areas. That why is very important. When you airdrop someone, you're setting them up for failure and maybe some sort of gap in service, and we want to limit that as much as possible. So really making sure, regardless if the person has 1 year experience, 10-year experience, 20-year experience, that we go through the training to make sure they're ready to go for our facilities, and understanding what we do and why we do them, I think is very important. It's a critical component, again, with putting together an all-star team.
Carl, thank you for sharing those thoughts. And yeah, I couldn't agree more, especially it had me thinking about the incredible diversity of new kinds of spaces we see with new builds and remodels. And today's facility does not look like the facility of even 10 or 20 years ago. And management has to be in tune with that, or even part of the design process in some cases. We can't tell you how many new facilities we've seen where custodial did not have a seat at the table when it came to kind of the project design work, and it can be very limiting for the custodial team if they don't have effective space even to house some of the equipment, for example.
Yeah, and I think it ties back, Tony, to the fact that we have a more demanding occupant. They want more out of their space, and then they also want more out of the service.
Yep. Okay, well, that brings us to our next poll question. What percentage of custodial leadership positions do you typically try to fill internally through internal promotions versus having to hire from the outside? So let's see the answer to that question. Again, what percentage do you fill internally, or do you try to fill internally? No right or wrong answer here, and we can't see how anyone voted, so don't feel bad how you vote. I know Donna talked about a really strong kind of internal promotion culture at Brown, which is nice to hear about. So it sounds like they try to develop from within as best they can. All right. So I can see the poll results. I figured out how to do that, and it looks like 32%, so about a third of you, try to fill 75 to 100% of positions internally. Then roughly another third is somewhere between half and 75%. So a solid 60, about 2/3 are trying to fill internally, versus about 1/3, tends more to hire from the outside. And these same principles apply to both, by the way. If you bring in a supervisor from the outside, of course, they need a bigger kind of training when it comes to getting to know the current culture versus someone internally. But in both cases, I think a lot of these same principles do apply. Okay, so next we will move on to our final presenter before Q&A. I will pass it off to Mr. Musa Pan from UNLV. All yours, Musa.
Thank you, Tony, and good morning to those of you in the Pacific time zone, and good afternoon to everyone else. So it's really a pleasure to be with all 330 or so of you all colleagues from around the country and around the APA regions. It's really a pleasure to be amongst this august panel of experts. And especially, I would be a bit partial to my former colleague at Brown, Donna Butler. So here at UNLV, you see a picture of the strip there. The strip is just about a half mile behind me to our west. We have a staff of about 300 throughout the department, and the custodial staff portion of that is about 120. Overall in the department, we have $37 million budget with 100 buildings that we service on 4 million square feet over 400 acres. Yeah, thank you. So let's start by talking about what is the importance of a strong custodial management team. I think there are two facets here. What are the foundations of success if you think about the outcomes? And it's really founded and grounded upon the strength of the management team that you have. Managers play very critical roles in ensuring that the staff are providing customer service, customer experience in the areas of cleanliness, safety, and efficiency. What are some of the key qualities of our managers? If you think about it, the essential qualities are that you need to have strong leadership skills, clear communication, and problem-solving abilities. In each of our spheres of influence every day, I know that we encounter managers who may be lacking in one or more of these areas, and it's incumbent upon us to help them hone these skills: leadership skills, clear communication, and problem-solving abilities. Now we enter into the sphere of technology. How can we use technology and use technology essentially as tools in the area of improving efficiency in the work that we do? I mentioned, I think Tony mentioned it earlier, that I was a former colleague of Donna's at Brown University. One of the pivotal things that we did in my 3 years plus at Brown University was to convert our software systems, our computerized maintenance management software systems, from Famous to Plan-On. And as a result of that, I had a major role in helping in that transition and in training our staff, including Donna's staff. We provided iPhones to every employee in facilities management, whether you were a grounds worker or a custodial staff member. You were empowered to use that as a tool in doing your work. So custodial management software is important in introducing tools and software that can help streamline the tasks and improve efficiency for our staff. Then for managers, if you're a manager or you're coaching staff to become managers, it's important to make data-driven decisions. Not necessarily does every decision have to be one that comes from the gut, although we all have that tendency. But use data as your friend and explain for your staff who you're mentoring and training and developing how they can use that data and analytics to make informed decisions and improve overall performance. Donna has Smart Inspect, and we now have Smart Inspect at UNLV. That is an important example of a tool that you can use to make data-driven decisions. And you can see the graphic of Smart Inspect next to that text. Thank you, Tony. So challenges. Yes, we have challenges. If you're on this webinar and you don't have challenges, then I would love to hear from you so I can learn from you. But some of the major challenges that we encounter are high turnover rates. I mentioned the strip being half a mile from me. That is my biggest competitor. Whether it's Caesar's Palace or the Palazzo or Mandalay Bay, depending on the benefits and what have you, they attract our workers. But what we need to do is, I used this term when I was in business, and it's a very important term, differentiation. So we try to differentiate ourselves from the strip. With the strip, you have traffic, you have angrier and drunker customers, right? But at the university, you deal with students and faculty who are less boisterous and less vituperative than people you might find on the strip. So what are some of the other benefits, educational benefits for you and for your family members, longevity, being part of the state system and retirement? So those are some of the strategies that we use to help prevent turnover. My former vice president at Brown University mentioned something interesting to me during the course of my being there. Mike G said, you know, instead of having exit meetings, have retention meetings with staff before they even think about leaving. Just talk to them about why it's important for them to stay, what their role is for the organization as a whole. Then maintaining standards, right? Discussing the challenges of maintaining standards of cleanliness. Carl hit the nail on the head. We have very difficult customers in many cases, and they expect very high standards. Thank you. So I'll close with this. And as I mentioned, if you've seen my LinkedIn profile, you probably have seen that I am a diehard Boston fan. So a big fan of Jonathan Papelbon, who was a closer for the Red Sox, one of the best. During my interview process for this position, and it's important for us I want to be vulnerable around this issue because, you know, a lot of you on this call may be seeking higher positions. How does one become an associate vice president or director or vice president, et cetera? On the plane heading to Las Vegas, I did some research on Wi-Fi and came up with this phrase in response to a question that I was asked to present at UNLV during my interview, which was, how would you align the facilities management department to help UNLV succeed in its top tier mission? That's the mission and strategy for the university. So I did some research, came up with this term, rebels with a cause. And as you can see, and I'm not going to enumerate all of them, I'm closing with this, is participating in community engagement and volunteerism, advancing excellence in learning and becoming champions of an academic health center, understanding and enhancing customer experience using SMART goals-oriented performance metrics. And for those of us who might not know what the SMART goals are, they're specific, they're measurable, they're attainable, they're realistic, and they're time-bound. We use those goals also in our performance management process. Supporting social justice, equity, and inclusion by embracing anti-racist culture, norms, and attitudes. I've given another talk in APA about anti-racist culture and championing anti-racist culture. And what I'd say just briefly about anti-racism is anti-racism does not equal not being racist. Think about that. Being anti-racist is not the same thing as not being racist. Please look it up if you can, and let's follow up on that offline. And then last but not least, embracing entrepreneurship, ideation, and innovation in all aspects of facilities management. That is really taking the attitude that it's okay to fail. It's okay to try new things. I was very emboldened last week when I met with custodial staff, and one of our custodians came to me and said, you know, that E in Rebels with a Cause, I went to my supervisor and I talked to him about how we could have a different approach about cleaning this area. And as a result of our conversation, we're able to reduce the amount of chemicals that we're using and reduce the amount of time. That is being innovative. So I highly encourage you to do that. Remember Facebook's mantra, they move fast and they break things. It's okay to break things if you're improving. Thank you very much.
Musa, thank you. That was a great presentation. And just to kind of summarize or pick out a couple things that stand out, I love your your concept of differentiating for, in your case, from the strip, but I think everybody here can find something about their college and university that's different from the surrounding employment opportunities. And I think tying into your school's culture, mission, what makes you unique, that is a huge aspect of attracting and keeping a strong management team and frontline employees for that matter. That was a great point. And I think showing that you're serious about your department, about your role is real important. For those that don't know Musa, he's one of the best dressed facility leaders out there. I'll just say it. He's always looking sharp. And when you present yourself that way and people see you around campus as this, guy that's just with it and takes his role seriously, that flows to the whole team. And I think there's something to be said about that too. Okay, so survey, or I'm sorry, the poll, last poll question. What area of development is most needed for your custodial leadership team? We could have listed 10 or 15 topics here, but the webinar listed us to these 5, or limited us to 5. So is it HR related? Hiring, firing, union relations, payroll, team building and morale? That kind of ties into what Musa was just talking about, rebels with a cause and kind of getting everybody rallied around a mission. That's team building. Quality control, corrective action. We've heard about that today. Customer communication and relations, and then finally staffing models, route, kind of more the technical side of cleaning. Is that something that you feel the team needs development in? So we're watching the polls come in here. Interesting, 35%. So more than a third of you, team building and morale is most needed. And that just kind of shows the state of our industry a little bit, with the turnover and everything that we've all been through the pandemic. I think a lot of morale is still needed and people that are good at building strong teams. The next most popular one is quality control and corrective action. A quarter of you say that's the most important thing. Musa and Donna are experts in that area, so if anybody wants to follow up with them offline, they'd be happy to share what they do. And then the third is HR. A lot of us, I've heard so many custodial leaders say they spend most of their day every day on HR issues. So if you're not good at that, you better be good at that, because that's a big part of leadership in this area. Okay, so to wrap up, then we'll address some questions. We covered a lot today. The time always goes fast when you have so many great presenters, but we talked about the need of strong custodial leadership. We've talked about how there's a serious gap right now in the industry through talent drain and through everything we've just been through with staffing crises and the pandemic. And then finally, some kind of proactive action is needed to build the leaders of tomorrow. And you can see just from today, there's no one size fits all approach. UNLV is doing it very differently than Brown, and Carl's seen so many programs over these years do it, so many different ways. There's no one size fits all approach, but you have to take action. You can't just sit back and think it's going to happen. And so I just kind of highlighted some of the things we've heard of today, the passion or the why behind leadership, transparency, communication, technology, training, peer benchmarking, and having overall FM knowledge. These are sort of the common thread, even though they're customized in each program that we tend to find. Okay, we have a ton of questions. We're not going to be able to get to all of these. Thank you for all the questions that have been submitted. I'm going to just kind of start picking some out and calling on some of our panelists. Let's try to stick with short, sweet answers so we can try to get through a lot of these. Let's see here. What's the biggest piece of advice you would give to a new member of custodial leadership? They've either just been promoted as supervisor or they came in from the outside. What's the most important thing you want them to know? Carl, you go first.
Something someone told me, which is you float before you steer the ship. So understand your program, understand how to keep it going wherever it is before you start to implement change.
Nice. Musa, how about you?
This is one related to your earlier comment about my attire. It's dress for the job that you want, not the one that you have.
I like that. That's great. hopefully they're motivated to do that. Donna, biggest piece of advice?
Feel free to ask questions. Don't hold back. You won't know the answer or get the guidance unless you ask the question.
Great points. Don, I'm not sure you can answer this live here, but several people have asked about how much the third shift stipend is. Are you able to answer that publicly, or do you want to take that offline?
I can take it offline.
Okay. Someone asked Musa to repeat his biggest piece of advice. What he said was, dress for the job you want, not the one you have. Is that correct, Musa?
That is correct.
Okay, great. Some of you are just asking, will this be shared? Yes, this will be posted on the archive page on the APA website. Let's see. What is the average square foot per custodian of responsibility at Brown and UNLV? I'll just kind of answer that generically, knowing these two programs. It's APA level 2 generally. There's some APA 1 areas or maybe some APA 3 area types, but from a general standpoint, campus-wide, APA 2, you can look that up, what that is per square foot. How do you inspire new ideas and new technology into the department if they're uninterested? So I'm sure you came across that at Brown, Donna. Like, what if some people don't want to have a new campus issued phone, or they don't want to use your quality assurance tool? How do you get them to buy into it?
We invested in a Georgia Pacific colo product that actually saves labor, and we promote that to them, where instead of checking 12 dispensers in a multi-use bathroom, they only have to check 2 because an alert has reached that iPhone to tell them that it needs servicing. So they don't have to check the other 10 dispensers, and they could do something else. And taking credit for recognizing them when they do use the app, and calling them rock stars, and get a little mug or something from Brown to applaud that enthusiasm and checking the app. We also decoupled Plan On from the payroll process. We use Workday here, so having that device eases the payroll process in terms of the staff submitting their own hours, and then going to the supervisor to seek approvals and so forth, and verification, of course. But it empowered them to get out of paper and pen and use that, as well as, again, photos. I can't tell you how many photos are sent to me by the frontline staff to say, hey, similar to Moose's story about technology, is we have a problem. This is always leaking. There's always spillage here. There's always a trash issue here, and troubleshooting from the eyes of the frontline staff.
Yeah, that's good. So kind of working backwards, using something simple like photos to get people to buy in, and then tying the technology to some kind of benefit for the user so that they can be more motivated to use it. How about you, Musa? What do you see in terms of adopting new technology? What are some tips?
Yeah, so really briefly, that's a great question. So one strategy that you would want to employ is develop champions from among the adopters, right? We mentioned the baby boomers and the retirees and what have you. It's not a bad thing that they are not technology savvy, but if you develop champions from among their ranks, what we did at Brown with the Plan On adoption was one of our electricians, Chris Johnson, was really, really good at the system, and using him to help train the staff helped with the change management strategies that we adopted. Here at UNLV, we have a mantra within our division called CARE. So it's collaborate, acknowledge, respect, and empower. So the E in CARE, empower them to feel as though it's okay to not be great at this new thing at first, but let them meet them in their own space and at their own time to help them realize the importance of what the new technology or new system or new software is.
That's really good. Yeah, and so empower is kind of a common answer that you both gave there. Carl, Carl has a unique vantage point of helping a lot of programs implement a lot of different technologies, kind of, so he can kind of see union versus non-union, public, private, East Coast, West Coast. So Carl, what do you see as kind of a common way with all these diverse programs that you work with that you can help them adopt new technology or ideas?
Sure, it's a little bit again of what both Donna and Musa said, but it's practicing good change management, identifying folks, whether it's through a pilot or through doing a small launch of whatever initiative you want to do, to have them push that through and see, so folks see their peers doing those things. Making sure that that's also not only frontline staff, but also with supervisors and managers. Identifying those folks who will adopt to that change and then showing the win, right? We did this, look what we did. Or even going through, depending on where you are, whether you're a supervisor or a manager, doing it yourself and showing, look, I use this piece of technology. I took this sensor data, we were able to move things around. How was your day? Having all this technology and having all this data decision making is great, but if you don't use any of these tools, all this new technology is really is worthless, right? So making sure folks understand that we have all these tools now that we never had before, and they can really change our day and have a good impact on our programs.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, Carl. I love this question. Are there any qualities that make for a bad custodial supervisor or manager? As you're interviewing people, does your red flag go up if they exhibit what? What is that negative quality that person might not be cut out to be a leader? What would that be for you, Donna?
Oh, wow.
Or maybe answer it to the flip side. What are the positive qualities that someone has to have to be a good leader if the negative side's difficult?
Well, the fact that they're even interested in the position, applied to the position, has a long list of references over the years and their growth. Just being there and being present and hearing about the stability of a long-term organization and wanting to be part of that university employment process. Maybe the red flag, I ran into this recently. I was participating in an interview for a colleague, and the first question was, how much vacation time do people earn? So maybe that's a little red flag and not giving much more thought to the question. But the positive is even being present and wanting to interview and wanting to be part of the team.
Yeah, showing that desire, they really want it. How about you, Musa? How would you answer that?
Yes, I won't answer it backwards. I'll answer the question as it was asked, because it's in my role. I have the great fortune of leading this 300-member team, but I meet every new employee on their way in, and I meet with, as much as possible, every employee who's leaving, and I draw inspiration and lessons from each one of those encounters. So what are the bad qualities? What qualities make for a bad custodial manager? I'd say poor leadership, unwillingness to learn, being loud and obnoxious, unwilling to learn new skills, unwilling to follow policy and procedure, disregard for rules, promoting negativity within your team, promoting illegality, not developing your team members, not willing to listen, not being kind and caring to your team members. I could go on and on and on, but I hope that list is a little bit illuminating for folks.
Thank you. And if you're applying to a job in Musa's department out there, you better come well dressed. You don't have a chance, it sounds like. Okay, we'll respect everyone's time. Everybody, our contact info is on the screen as far as our email addresses go. You can find us on LinkedIn as well. It's been a pleasure to present this important topic. I want to thank our guests, Musa and Carl and Donna, for taking some of their busy time to meet with us today and share their thoughts. I want to thank all the audience for joining, and I'll pass it off to Billy. And of course, I have to thank APA for co-hosting, and now I'll pass it to Billy to wrap us up here. We might have lost Billy. That's okay. I saw somebody asked if this will be posted, and Billy answered tomorrow. So this will be available on the APA archive as soon as tomorrow. Thanks again, everybody. It was great being with you, and we look forward to keeping in touch.
Take care, all.
Bye-bye.
Take care.